Welcome to Behind the Lens. I'm your host, custom designer and wardrobe stylist, Jessie. I want to teach you how to shop like a stylist, how to prep, how to plan, how to shop for a photo shoot like a wardrobe stylist. You get hired for a shoot or you decide to do your own test shoot, concept your own test shoot. So now you have to get the clothes, you have to get the accessories, the shoes, all the pieces to make the shoot happen. What's most important, and if you've watched my other videos, you will know, stay focused on the concept, the storyline, the treatment, the mood board, the theme, whatever information you received from the producer, the director, the client, the talent, the one you created for yourself, whomever created the concept, that is the focus. I cannot tell you how many times those pieces of information circulate in my brain as I'm sifting through racks so that I don't get distracted while shopping, because if you stray from the concept, that can really make or break the styling. Keep in mind who you are dressing. Is it an actor, an actress? Is it a model? Is it a real person, just a client? There's so many things to consider with that. The person's body shape, the best colors for them. Watch my color analysis guide video. If you're trying to make a character look sad or tired, you'll pick specific colors for that. If you're trying to make them look great, you'll pick something for that. So it is not just willy-nilly go out shopping and buy whatever I like. And to that point, location. So for commercial, pretty much the golden rule is no logos, no pattern. Subtle pattern is okay. Texture is amazing. What is texture, you ask? Something like this. Texture, right? It's one solid gray color, but the camera will pick up all those cool little pieces. Wools can be great, cable knits can be great, but location is everything. What are the wall colors? What are the surrounding pieces in this room? That depends on what you're buying too. And if it's for film, you're going to work with the art director on that. If it's a commercial, there might be an art director as well. But again, looking at the mood board or the treatment will give you all those clues about the space in which the person will exist. And that will help you as far as what pieces you're going to buy and style them in. And as for location, inside or outside, so the color white when you are outside in broad daylight on camera is electric. So for film, it's not so great. For photo, it's okay because you can tweak the color in post. But again, keep all these things in mind when you are shopping. Who is the person? Where are they going to be situated? We have to keep in mind the budget. There's always a budget. And as a great stylist, you will be extremely conscious of this, no matter what you're shopping for, private client, commercial, or film, and people will love you for staying on budget. And it will also help you decide where you're gonna shop, how much you're gonna shop. So it is very fun to spend other people's money, but we have to be conscious of the end number, right? That makes a great stylist. I sort of touched on this, but color palette, you have to keep the color palette in mind. That goes along with location, and which I touched on a bit already as far as colors, but I always have the color palette easily accessible on my cell phone so I can pull it up as I'm sifting through. I'm consciously thinking about mood board and the color palette because again, you can get so easily distracted when you're looking at a rack of 100 options. And color palette again can make or break the shoot if it's all over the place, if it clashes with the location in a bad way, or if it's just doesn't really make sense with all these random different colors, and makes it easier for you to style once you're on set when you're within the color palette, because then everything kind of works. There are many times where I'm dressing multiple people in the same commercial photo shoot and film. So color palette is huge because you want each person to look great as themselves, but you want them to exist in the same world and be pleasing to the eye. It doesn't have to be so obvious, but as long as you're sticking to the color palette, it will just all flow and feel really nice. Don't forget about the year. Is it modern day? I always ask this question on every job I do, even if it feels kind of like you could assume. Or is it 1950? And then season. Winter, spring, summer, fall. I have shot Christmas movies in December. I have worked on Christmas movies in July. And you have to have outerwear, you have to have hats, gloves, scarves, especially for background as well. If the background is walking around in snow, even if it's fake, if it's July and they're wearing flats, it doesn't really look that great. They would, you know, be better off in boots or winter boots. So make sure it makes sense for the location, the season, because people can pick that stuff out. Also, target market. Who's the audience? Who are you trying to attract with this? Or if it's the character, keep in mind, you know, if you have a backstory on them, if they're really poor, if they're really rich, if they're middle income, the styling will definitely tell that. So wardrobe is storytelling through clothes. So these are really important pieces to keep in mind before you start shopping. You don't want to shop willy-nilly or it will look bad. It will not make sense and it will be really difficult to style once you're on set. Where are you getting the clothes from? Well, first place, your own closet. Or if you have a husband, wife, partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, whatever, family member, friend, somebody that you can pull stuff from. I pull from my closet all the time. Since I've been doing this now for well over a decade, I also have a massive kit in my garage filled with so many random pieces you could ever imagine. It used to be gigantic, but I've pared down a bit because it gets a little obnoxious and I was running out of storage. But start with your own wardrobe. See how much you can get from there and then try retail. So shopping retail as a stylist. Retail is fast fashion, contemporary designer, right? Everything from Target, Kohl's, Nordstrom Rack, H&M, Zara, just all the mainstream stores, even including department stores. That means you are buying pieces for the shoot and returning them. I personally like to shop online because you don't have to mess with people. And if it's something like a Saks or Neiman's, you are not messing with someone's sales commission. You can buy as much as you want, use what you want, return what you want, and you don't really have to deal with anybody. But there's some layers to this as well. So yes, I have had an actor or a talent wear an item and return it, but it was tagged, it wasn't worn for long, it didn't smell, I had the receipt, you know, so it's a really fine line as far as buying and returning. We all do it, you just have to be respectful. I try to always, of course, keep the pieces that are worn, but sometimes it just doesn't always work out that way. So, you know, keep the packaging, try to keep it in as best of condition as possible if you are going to return it, plan on returning it. But it's just the nature of the beast. I always overbuy to make sure I have enough pieces to get my job done, and then I return a lot of things. And where you shop is, of course, taking into consideration all the things we talked about. So if I'm working with a private client, I'm not just going to go to Zara or H&M and shop for them. That's just not how I roll. I don't find that. What's the point? I mean, I want quality for my private clients. I try to introduce them to cool indie brands they wouldn't find on their own. Now, if I'm shopping for a food commercial, right? It's a, you know, some marketing ad or campaign that takes place in a house or whatever. Yes, I'm going to Target, Kohl's, Nordstrom Rack, maybe J. Crew. It all just depends on what's the shoot for or what am I shopping for. And I most definitely pick certain stores or brands that I shop to get that job done correctly. It also helps with the budget. If you only have $2,000, it's not a good idea to shop at Nordstrom and Saks, knowing that that $2,000 is going to go really fast. And God forbid something got ruined, you couldn't return it. You don't want to be responsible for paying for it. You can always shop thrift and vintage, one of my most favorite things and places to shop because the pieces are super cool, very unique, one of a kind. They were made much better back then than they were now. But some of the cons are that it's final sale. There's usually only one. So if you ever need duplicates, you probably won't find it. And you have to wash or dry clean the pieces before you put them on the talent. Always, because that's just gross. That stuff is old. It's been sitting there. Who knows when it was last washed, and just out of respect for whomever you're putting in on their body. And truthfully, I would like to wash all of my retail before I put it on somebody. And if I buy something new, I always wash it before I wear it. Number one, because of the chemicals they put on it, the preservatives to keep the bugs away. But number two, because you don't know who's maybe worn it before you bought it. But vintage and thrift, my favorite. I used to have a massive vintage collection, but like I said, I ran out of space, so I got rid of a lot of it. But that's where you find the coolest and best stuff. Let's clarify thrift versus vintage. Thrift is Salvation Army, Goodwill, Unique. I mean, there are hundreds of places where people drop their old clothes. Vintage, I consider 20 years or older. And of course, you can find vintage at thrift, but then there's other shops that exist that are strictly vintage. Many of them are super curated, which is awesome by year. You know, if you're in Chicago, there's some really incredible thrift, or New York for that matter. And it's very curated. Some of it's like, I just sell 80s, I only sell 50s and 60s, and it makes shopping really fun and easy because then you know your time periods are accurate as well. If you're shopping time period pieces, you have to be conscious of what was happening then and nothing that came afterward, because that'll look really bad. Okay, you can look at consignment. Consignment means the seller gets paid once the item is sold and the shop is kind of the middleman. So a place like Real, which is designer consignment, there's many that exist now. There's a place called Crossroads or Plato's Closet. A lot of that's consignment. It doesn't really matter to the stylist. It's just a term that exists. Whereas if you're a seller, you get paid when that item is sold. And there's different stores. Some of them are just strictly consignment, but some are, you know, new, used consignment. As you can imagine, I get so many random pieces from jobs, and some of it I will consign actually, because why not? If I'm not going to use it ever again, I may as well try to get some money for it. So it can be nice actually when you are trying to get rid of stuff versus just donating it for nothing. So then there's the term pulling, which means you're basically pulling items from a brand or a designer on loan. Sometimes you have to give a deposit. Sometimes you give nothing. You're just charged if you keep stuff or if something is damaged. And sometimes you can't keep stuff if there's samples. Next is rental. If you're doing a period piece, typically you'll rent the piece if you can't find it vintage. And there's obviously pros and cons to this as well. You pay a small fee for renting. The problem is if you need to hold on to the piece for a while, sometimes you can't do that. You may have to take it back to the rental shop and then rent it again, or sometimes it can get really expensive if you're renting for days and days and days. Again, you can't keep the piece, which is risky for a commercial if you needed to hold on to it for some reason, if they were going to shoot again a part of the same commercial in 6 months or a year. So there's pros and cons because you can find some really awesome things, but you have to just borrow it, shoot it, and then give it back. And you cannot keep rentals. Then as far as celebrity styling is concerned, when you see haute couture, high-end designer on all of these people, where's the stuff coming from? Well, it's twofold. Sometimes you can get it directly from the designer, or you go through a publicist, PR, who has access to the pieces, or a showroom. So showrooms are awesome because they are sometimes the only ways in which you can get a hold of these amazing pieces. But it's similar to a rental where you borrow a sample, and many times there's only one sample size. So if your client isn't sample size, you can't borrow the stuff. But you get to borrow it usually for a very short amount of time, like I'm talking 3-4 days, and then you have to give it right back. You also have to have relationships with these people. They do not let any old Joe Schmo contact their PR and borrow stuff, or you can't just show up to the showroom and borrow, you know, a $30,000 Gucci gown because it makes sense for your, you know, shoot. There are some department stores that'll let you pull on loan, which means you're not buying and returning. You're going to the store, you're pulling all the pieces you want for the shoot. They hold your credit card. They charge you only what you keep, which is really nice for them because they're not getting hit with huge returns. They're only charging the card for keeps. So that's great for them. And it's also great for you actually, because then your credit isn't held up, whether you're using your own cards or production cards. So options. I always think more is more for any job that I do, because again, if you're on set, you're better off having the piece there with you than not at all. I have learned my lesson the very hard way with commercials. There are many cooks in the kitchen. There's the agency, the client, production, and sometimes they give you 100 different ideas, conflicting ideas, and they'll say, you know, stay away from all black and white. Okay, so then you shop all this color, you get to set, and they're wondering, where's all the black and white? And you're like, ha, is this backwards day? So I oftentimes buy a lot of extra stuff that maybe necessarily wasn't exactly called out, but using my expertise to make sure that I have enough stuff to make the shoot amazing, because it's not gonna do you any good if it is at the store. You have to stay disciplined and organized to ensure you can return everything that you're not using to stay on budget. Don't lose receipts. Don't lose hang tags, clothing tags. You want to make it really seamless for whomever is doing the returns, and you don't want to give them any reason to red flag and call you out and not allow you to return. Again, this is why online is great, because you don't have to deal with any people. I also love shopping online because of quality and quantity. The options available to you are basically endless, and the sizes. You usually have better size runs online than in store. If you're in store, they only have a size small. Well, hopefully that works. If not, you're out of luck. Online, you could maybe get away with trying an extra small or maybe even a medium and kind of tweaking it how you need it for your talent. Invest in a great rolling rack and a great steamer, and bring an iron if that makes sense for, you know, a cotton blouse that you need to press really nicely. Always have those pieces with you, and I will link you to all of my favorite things. Don't forget your set bag and anything else in your kit you need to bring from home. Keep in mind who you are dressing. So if it's supposed to be a married person, make sure you either bring wedding bands from your kit, which I have, or pick some up at the store, because that's a big deal and it will look really silly. And I know not every married person wears a wedding ring, but in the TV and film and commercial world, they do, because that's the sign that tells the audience that they're married. Be sure to watch my other video, What's in My Set Bag, so you know exactly what to have on you at all times, so you are prepared. Please like and subscribe this video. Talk to me in the comment section. I hope this was helpful, but if you have further questions, let me know. I want to help you, and I will see you on the next episode of Behind the Lens.